Mike, looking at the last few games for Ole Miss and just kind of their numbers from the year, how important do you think it would be in this game to maybe establish a bit of a run game, the struggles that they've had with their run defense?
Well, I think it always is. You kind of, with rare exception, defense kind of dictates, to a point what's ideal to run and execute to begin with, because they're going to select something to take and to cover, and then, you try to counterpunch and respond to that. So,
If it rains, which they're predicting rain, does that change it at all?
I don't think so. Because I don't think it'll affect the footing. I mean, if it affects the footing, that's where the change comes, but I don't think it will. And then who knows on, whether it'll rain. It's kind of this year's proven to be a bit of a coin flip,
Traditionally, past games were affected more by air games. How's the air raid different, and the weather doesn't seem to impact it quite as much?
Well, I think the bigger thing, you do it all the time, because it's kind of funny, and it was one of the favorite, you guys, it's more of a nuisance to you guys than it is to me. I mean, it's a nuisance to me, but, so whether it's fans or just kind of, something becomes a notion that gets repeated over and over. It's not true, it just becomes a notion. And then everybody asks the same question over and over again, in some cases for decades. And, this business of throwing the ball, which started, Dutch Meyer there at TCU with Sammy Baugh was throwing it like crazy. And then there's been all these different periods where they threw the ball. The guy that I kind of draw from and admire a great deal and would like to know more and more about, and I've talked to a couple, older coaches that actually knew him. Sid Gilman's a fascinating guy, as far as the modern passing game, and then of course the run, and he was, but they all came from northern colder places, Cincinnati and Ohio. Paul Brown, that group was, the roots of the West Coast. And then, of course, run and shoot, Tiger Ellison. That's in Ohio. You can do that in swirling winds of Ohio, it turns out. And then guys that really started doing it in the NFL, of course, was the likes of, Green Bay, and then collegiately, and everything from Montana to BYU to. So, it's really, I don't think it's really very weather determinative. It's fun to talk about if you don't want to do it. You need a good excuse to avoid doing it, because if somebody else is doing it and having success with it, you want to have a good excuse why you're not. And I've always thought just because you don't feel like it or you like the other way better is a good enough excuse. But some people aren't secure enough to say that. And so then they say, oh, the weather or this or that, which, that's kind of a dog ate my homework deal. So, and you guys evidently don't fully accept it because you keep digging it up. And I'm not saying you accept my explanation, but you certainly don't accept that one either. So, so the battle continues.
Sticking with the weather, Coach, as the road team, is it almost an advantage to have a weather situation where perhaps it negates some of the home field advantage? Maybe a lot of people don't want to go sit in the rain in 40-degree weather.
That might. I hadn't really thought about it. It might. There's a point to where noise is noise, and if your communication's sharp, it doesn't always matter who's making the noise. I mean, once you can communicate in it. I mean, noise in and of itself is fun and exciting, and that's a good, because just a gloomy, quiet sort of. That's no fun either. I remember playing at Stanford. That was like playing in a practice gym sometimes. I mean, some guy would make a bad play. I'd just yell across the field. I just scream at it. The guy at Stanford sideline, he knew what I was saying. He knew what I thought about the receiver's route. You'd even see the Stanford coaching, they go, of course, they're doing the same thing, you know, but, no, you like a little noise, a little juice, a little action. If you're at home, they tend to yell when you want them to rather than when you don't, though.
Mike, you mentioned on Saturday that, when you get prepared for this game, you kind of try to, get rid of all the emotions, so it doesn't affect, how players approach the game. I guess, haven't been around a lot of rivalries. Why is it, so much with fans that these emotions and things like that are attached, and, this game kind of seems to matter more than the other ones?
I think it's because they're close together. I think everybody's close together. They like to talk about it. It gives them something spirited to talk about and do throughout the year. And then, they know more people that are on the opposite side. So I just think it's it's good that way. And because people always gravitate towards rivalries. Occasionally you'll get, a rival fan or somebody that thinks they're special, but, so if somehow they left or went to a different conference, heck, we'd have them replaced by the end of the week, Like if Ole Miss disappeared or say went to the Big East or whatever, they would, we'd replace them with Arkansas or LSU, I would imagine, before the following Thursday, wouldn't we? I mean, but for the time being, we're focused on them and let's get after them,
I guess to follow up with that, because of that fan investment, do you think that, a result in this game matters any more than a result in another game?
Maybe, but it might. You only have, you have your best. You go out there and you do your best, whatever you think's your best. Play your best, get in the best position you can to perform your best, and that's what you got. It's not like there's a reserve. Nobody wants to play for or be coached by or coach players that are sitting there, and there are a few of them, I don't like it, that are operating on a reserve. We've got some kind of reserve we're holding back. You're just falling short of your potential, so there's no really holding back. You're trying to hit full potential all the time so that, the more times you do it, then full potential becomes something greater than it was the day before. So, there's no real reserve. Everybody's out there trying as hard as they can, and they may mistry or may be incorrect or may even inspire and do something special. But everybody's the right player, right coaches are trying to do their best and be the best they can.
Here at the end of a long season, do you think players kind of like a short practice week, play a game, turn around, get back in, and just play another game?
That's a good question. I think that's a good question, because I've wondered that myself, because as you think about how to organize your practices, I think that I think that there's kind of an adjustment the day right after the previous game. Right after the previous game. And then I think you want to quickly set the schedule, and then it's all in, everybody focuses. I think it's clear, though, or you want to make the decisions clear, who's where, who's when, who's what, make that clear the next day. So everybody hits it full steam. I guess if you go out and play well, you win. I'm sure everybody, thinks short's good. Maybe it should be shorter. If you don't, I suppose they want it longer. I don't know, but yeah, either way.
What did you think of playing on Thanksgiving last year? What's it like, playing on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah, it's kind of like bowls. You don't celebrate Thanksgiving, really. You talk about Thanksgiving. A lot of people talk about Thanksgiving. They think that everybody's leaving practice and the game and racing to eat turkey, which really isn't the case. I think that probably our team and my family, for example, and probably our team, Thanksgiving is is Friday, you know, Thanksgiving's Friday. You wrap up the game, you know, sometime Friday afternoon, Thanksgiving. Some may even push it to Saturday, I don't know, but it's not Thursday and it's not Wednesday. It's not like, oh, we gotta squeeze it in before the game. No, I mean, some operate that way. Of course, some people bring Christmas trees and presents to bowl games. We don't do that either. The best is bowl games, you know. Especially, you know, if you family not used to going to bowl games or whatever, they go, well, we just can't go because, you know, Christmas is that day and we've been planning all year. Too bad, they're not gonna move the bowl game. Bowl game's gonna be this day. And then, yeah, well, maybe next year we could plan if they have it a different day. Well, they might have it a different day, but you're not gonna know till like 2 weeks before, you know. Well, yeah, and plus we have to open the presents on this day or whatever. No, bowl game, we would have set a special Santa day. Santa's coming, figure out the bowl. Maybe, you know, the bowl, it didn't matter if it's like the 16th or the bowl's the, you know, January 3rd. Well, Santa's coming this day, which was strategically 3 days before you leave to the bowl. And then they hammer through all their, you know, their presents and there's paper and the stuff. And then they one time my son's friend comes over and there's all these what's going on? My son says, oh, Santa came early because we got a bowl game and, you know, we told him we couldn't do it, and so he came here early. And kids go, Santa didn't come to my house today, you know. And so then you let the newness wear off the presents. You go to the bowl game because there's a point where they all like going to bowl games because, you know, if you're a kid, there's nothing more fun than running down the halls of a hotel screaming and doing cannonballs in a hot tub in the middle of the night, you know. So, I mean, that's pretty hard to resist too. So then they get to a point where they'll just reconcile moving the day, although not as dramatic. Thanksgiving's a little like that too.
Just curious, you know, this isn't your first time, you know, playing against Lane Kiffin and his offense. I guess what kind of goes into, you know, trying to slow them down, that rushing attack, the up tempo that they use?
Just play fast, you know. We got to play fast, and you know we do some of that ourselves. We got to play fast. I think the key with them is the quarterback. The quarterback, how quick he can transition and operate without being affected, I think is key. I mean, they have plenty of good players, and you can even argue he's not the best of all of them. I mean, he's a very good one, but I think he's key because he's the guy that transitions it to everybody else, you know, and the more you can frustrate that, the better off you are.
This is your third time coaching against Lane Kiffin. Just kind of what have you?
Well, it's probably the 5th or 6th, but go ahead.
Yeah, here at State. What kind of do you think of him as a coach, and just interactions maybe in the off season at meetings and things like that?
Pretty hilarious guy. No, I've always enjoyed. I've known him a long time. I've known him since he was. I'm trying to think. I first met him, I think, when he was because I knew Monty. Let's see, I knew Monty. I met Lane through Monty, who I think was a GA for Pete Carroll at the time. And then, you know, just a good, sharp coach, a good football family, dedicated, you know, just focused on the game. And, you know, hilarious guy, fun at meetings. You know, you go to these meetings, I mean, I know you guys may think they're really exciting and you're really missing out on something. And if you can get the legislation across where you can go to a lot of them instead of me, I'd be happy to trade places with you. Not really trade places, but more like you go and I don't. and I think that, you know, he kind of brightens and freshens it up a little bit. Yeah, he fun to hang out with at the meetings.
When it comes to recruiting in the state, how much do you think, you know, the Egg Bowl and the result of it can carry momentum, you know, into the off season and going into signing day?
No, I just think games in general do. I think they all do. It probably, I think it does for sure. I think all of them do. I think all games do. And I think all games are really important, and you only get so many of them. I mean, that's the thing with football. It's one thing, some of these other sports, but football, is this an important game? Well, you only get 12 of them, so let's, up until the bowl or the playoffs or something. So hell yeah, they're important. I mean, how many things you only get 12 times a year that aren't important? I mean, they're all important.
You have a recipe for your gravy, or is it all up here? You just-
I got a little of both. We kind of go through the cupboard. There's some stuff that's in it every time. Secret ingredient, tiger sauce. Really put it over the top. So I highly recommend that. Don't undervalue soy sauce in it. You want something that's going to make it tangy, though, and the tiger sauce definitely does that. But yeah, it's kind of go through the cupboard. Lemon pepper's good. Lemon pepper helps it for sure. Some stuff people try to put in them, which I recommend against. Too much sage, no. Liquid smoke, no. And I think Worcestershire sauce is a sucker bet too for turkey gravy. Just has kind of a sort of dries and flattens it out somehow.